we've got all the displays built up. I showed you in the last video series how to do this on a Windows computer. So I'm thinking today I'm going to show you how to do it on a Mac. So I got a little MacBook here. We got the display. I got a power supply behind the MacBook. We'll get everything powered up. I'll show you how to upload the firmware using a MacBook and the DFU mode. So let's get into that. First, we'll hook our power up. Now, again, we discussed this earlier. We've got 12 volt and ground. I'm just going to use a 2-pin connector, making sure I put it in the right location. This one I've already shaved those ears off. It's clicked in. We'll need to attach our USB. I'm just using a hub. So we'll give it power. You can verify that you're getting power on the back of the display. You'll see this green light. All right, so now that we're powered up, you've got button 1, button 2, reset, and DFU. You want to hold DFU, you want to press and release reset, and then you release DFU. That puts it into DFU mode. Then you can come over, you want to go to device, DFU upload, and then where you've pulled your DFU file, the last video will cover all that. I'm just going to navigate to mine. So once you get to where you're housing your PIN2DMD.dfu file, select it, hit open. You'll notice registers that there's a DFU device and it's uploading it to it. It's erasing the device itself. So I don't have a micro SD card in there. It's just the board. We're writing to the actual board, not an SD card. And time varies, so it just kind of let it do its thing. All right, now you'll see download done. Done parsing DFU file. Please close the window. So you just close that. And now if you hit reset, it'll come up. It'll go into your operating system and it's ready for activation. Now what I like to do is hold button 2, press and release reset. Gets me into the config menu, and then I can scroll through and get my UID number. Now I'm going to write my UID number down because I have to send off for activation on these. So I like to write it down, and I also like to take a picture. All right, so we'll kill the power to that one, and we'll grab the next one. And we hook power, our USB cable, and you can see there's no SD card in here. We're going to give it power. So no display. You can see the power LED is on. So we're going to hold DFU, press and release reset, release DFU. So now we're in DFU mode. Go back over here, device, DFU upload again. Select our file. And it's just going through its process again. So we just close that window. Make sure I push the right reset button. And then we reset it. And it comes up. And that's it. So that one's done. Like I said, I like to hold the button 2, reset again, go in the config menu, and then go through and get my device number. Get my picture of this one. And then let's do one more. So we'll cut the power, pull the USB, we'll pull power, we'll put the power to this one, USB, turn the power on. Again, we're going to hold DFU, press and release reset, release DFU. We're now in DFU mode. There is no visual indicator for that. If you go up to device and hit DFU upload. If you don't get the screen that says go pick your file, it will give you there is no DFU device found. All right, that one's done. We'll close the window. You do have to make sure you do close that window. We'll hit reset, and it comes up color prism 4.57. Hold that button too, hit reset again, goes into config, and that's it. So if you still got questions on anything, I'm hoping that this second video, or it's really whatever number of video it is, I think I have a couple of different ones for the PIN2DMD at this point. I hope that this gives you more confidence to do this yourself, because at this point you've seen when manufacturing issues arise where that was my fault. It was not the company's fault. I told them to put the stuff in the wrong spot. We have corrected that. Building up the displays, cutting those wires, soldering them in for the power. You don't even have to have a micro SD card to get the firmware onto the display. The micro SD card is really only comes into play whenever you get your number. You make your donation for your activation key. When you get that activation key back, you can activate your display. And really the micro SD cards for color files. And color files are going to be, they're going to run the gambit, right? Some are free on VP Universe, and then others you contact the author on VP Universe, and they are going to ask you for this number. They're going to ask you for your display number, and they will give you a color file that's specifically tied to that display. Now that display can run a whole bunch of other pinball color files, but if the author requires you to give them your UID number, that specific color file is only going to work for the display that you gave it to them for. So if you want to reuse a display in other machines, you still can. You just have to get new color files. And most of the time it's going to be for that display. So if you've got any other questions or want me to make any videos on any other kind of content for PIN2DMD, just drop in the comments. I've tried to make sure to show you something on a Windows-based system, now a Macintosh-based system, and show you when things don't go right, you can still fix it and get a good display out of it. And then when everything's ironed out, this is how quick and easy it can be to put these things together and then go use them. We now have our key files for our displays. So I'm going to show you two ways to be able to activate these displays. The first way, we're going to use a micro SD card. We'll just load it up. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and open that. These come up and they just say no name. The display that I have here, so you go, and now I sent and got all 10 key files at the same time. So just make sure you double check that. You don't want to get that wrong. So basically, this particular display is display 26, and how I've denoted the numbering, and that's just because the middle two numbers are 26. I'm going to rearrange this just a little bit so we can see both. I'm going to grab that 26 and I'm going to pull it over to the no name micro SD card. I'm simply just going to close that, and I'm going to eject it. Now this is a same for Mac or Windows. You really want to make sure you go and you eject that drive or however it comes up on your computer. Once you eject it, you just pull it out. We're going to put it into our display. If I can get my hands to work. Now, we're not going to be hooking up the data cable, right? So we're doing this with just the micro SD card. So we're going to hook up the power. And when we power it on, it should go through and activate itself. So let's give that a shot. All right, and then one way to check that, again, we go into that menu button, or the configuration menu, holding button 2, press and release reset. We're in the config menu. Then we can use button 1. We're going to our display UID. We're going to hit button 2. And it should tell us, before it gives us our number, it should tell us whether or not it's activated. So it did not come up as not activated. So it went straight to our number. So this device is now activated. So the second way to activate a display, let me grab a different one. All right, so before we go all the way through the activation, let me show you what I was talking about the activation message. Let me power this up. So go into the config menu. So here's the display UID. If I hit go in, select this menu, it should tell me I'm not activated. Not activated. You notice the last one went straight to the number. So when you put it on the micro SD card, it automatically activates the device. You don't have to do anything else. But if you want to go through and use a USB, we'll go through that too. All right, so this one is 22, so E3722. I believe I have a 36 and a 37 of 22. So I'm going to exit. I'm going to go back into just regular. I'm here. I'm going to make my phone not bother me no more. Now we will use the PIN2DMD Color Prism program. We'll go to Device. We'll go to Activate. Navigate to where your files are. This is 3722. It's going to be this one. I'm going to hit Open. Bam. You notice the display restarted. But I did get a message that says device activation failed. Let me make sure I used the right one. Oh, well, I went to try to reactivate it and it says device already activated. So it gave me a false failure. Well, we can check that. So I'm going to unhook it. We're going to go back into the menu. Straight to the number. So this device is now activated. So that's two different ways that you can activate these. It just really depends on the usage case. If you're going to be in the field, it might be easier to have it on a micro SD card. If you're at a workbench, it might be easier to just plug it up with the USB and activate it that way. So that's going to wrap up this round 2 video. I hope you can agree that this process was much easier than the first time when I don't mess up and tell the people to make it wrong. They manufactured it to the new specifications, and all we did was put these 2 displays on. We solder in our 2 power connectors, and it's simple. Make that donation, get the keys. Now they're activated. You can go and use them in whatever pinball machine you want. If it's a virtual pinball machine, you don't really have to do much else color file wise. You can download and use those. If you're going to put this into a real pin, you have to get with the author and get a color file that is specifically for your display. And then outside of that, it's really just figuring out what machine you're going to put it into and how you're going to power it. Thanks for sticking with us here at Behind the Coil as we go through this little learning curve, setting up our own manufacturing pipeline. If you have any questions, pop them in the comments below. I'm going to be linking my project from the Electro, so you'll be able to go, and this round 2, the boards that you saw us work with here are the exact same boards that you would get. It's basically as plug and play as a DIY build could be. So you'll be able to go to the Electro, use the project files that I used, and just make whatever order that you want to make. Well, golly, that's the end of the video. We'll see you next time here on Behind the Coil.